Good afternoon. Let me get this overlay off. Tom Ginn here, G-Force. G is for gratitude. G is, I believe, one of the most powerful words. G stands for gratitude. Is one of the most powerful words you can incorporate in your life. It changes perspective. It causes us to celebrate, no matter the good times or the bad times. It gives us hope, gratitude. It negates negativity. Gratitude is a spiritual principle as well. And the more you look at gratitude and apply it in your life, you will notice how things change around you, both personally, those around you, their circumstances. And we've been working out of the book, Gratitude Works by Robert A. Emmons. And the other day I was just really talking about the spiritual principles of gratitude. And we talked a little bit about fasting and what that does in giving us a reflection on gratitude. So next week, we're going to get into those principles, again, the 15 spiritual principles of gratitude to build your gratitude quotient. But today, I'm grateful for a lot of things today. Today is the best day of my life. And I'm so grateful for this moment. I'm grateful for my faith. I'm grateful for everything in my life. But I'm really excited today, and I'm grateful to introduce you to my guest today. And my guest has a tremendous story to share today. And it's inspiring. And what I'm going to ask you to do today is share this information out as we go through here. This is my guest today, Mike Shoreman. And we're going to be talking, Mike's going to be sharing his story. And Mike, are you ready to come on? Give me a thumbs up, buddy. We're ready to go. All right. Mike, thank you for being here on G-Force today. And
thank you for having me.
And I like to always share people how we got hooked together a little bit, okay?
Yeah.
One of my previous guests, Andrea Pass, was on, and she's a public relations person. And I guess she's helping you do some PR around your book and your speaking and all that. Is that correct?
That is right, yes.
Yeah, and she recommended that I have you on G-Force. And I looked at your bio, looked at your speeches, and I'm really excited. You gave me a different perspective with your story, and I just want to let you know that it's impacted me, and I know your story is going to impact other people. But today, I would like to just have you just share a little bit about, where do you live, a little bit of your background. And then the story that's led you to where we are today, and your visions, your dreams, and how they got shattered because of what you're going to share here in a moment. So, Mike, it's all yours, my friend, and so the platform's yours.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's really great to connect with you on this. It's a beautiful Good Friday here in Toronto, where I'm from. I'm from Toronto, Canada. We don't pronounce the last T, so it sounds like Toronto. But I live here in Toronto, and I grew up here, and yeah, so where my journey and where I think most people find my story to be most interesting is the entrepreneur aspect of it. I took a hobby and I turned it became a passion, and I turned it into a profession. And I was inspired on a kind of spiritual journey that led me to India and I was standing on the Ganges River, and it was like that aha light bulb moment. I was having my eat, pray, love moment. I went off and and went to India, and it just clicked on me that I wanted to create an experience for people, and I wanted to watch growth, and be a part of that. And and I was standing there, and I just realized I want to go home and turn this into something beautiful, that people would experience and remember and love. And so I did. I came back and I started this paddleboarding business.
Was that,
Um,
Mike, was
so
that the hobby you were talking about? It was a
yeah,
hobby,
so
something
so
you enjoy on
so
weekends?
for those who don't know what paddleboarding is, or stand-up paddleboarding, it's essentially surfing on the water, on flat water, with a paddle, to assist in movement. And people do it for so many reasons, but I did it because I found that it brought me a great sense of peace and relaxation. And also, I just loved being out in nature and, looking at things, birds, and marine life, and seeing people on the shore. And I taught right in front of the Toronto skyline, which is one of the most beautiful skylines in the world.
It is.
Um,
You're right. It is a beautiful skyline. I've been to Toronto, and it's breathtaking when you see it.
I think I have three or four skylines that come to mind when I think of, wow, beautiful skyline. Like New York, obviously, Chicago, Toronto's in my top list. And it's great because we've got an airport on the one side. So you've got all these buildings and the big tower, and I would teach at sunset, and I would do it in front of this gorgeous, backdrop, with planes landing on top of it, like landing into the airport, and the sun going down, and then I'd send everybody home with pictures, and they were wow pictures, like people raved about it. It was one of the greatest things that I think I've ever done. But the most amazing part was people would show up, and and they'd be nervous, or they'd be anxious, or some would be even scared. And I remember what it was like for me my first time. And my first
When
lesson,
was the first time? How old were you? What inspired you to get on the water on? I have trouble standing on ground, let alone try to stand on the surfboard or something.
yeah,
So, how old were you? How long had you been
I had
paddleboarding?
I had been doing it as a hobby for about 5 years.
Okay.
And I remember my first lesson. The guy just threw me in the lake, and it wasn't much of a lesson at all. It was, a 60-minute session, and I think I was in the water for 40 of the 60 minutes. I wasn't good, and my skill increased, but it took me a long time to get there. So when I designed my programs, I designed it in a way so that I would, you'd arrive at the beach. I'd go over the anatomy of the equipment. I'd go over what we were going to do while we were out there. I would go over safety and all these things, so that people were set up for success when we took it to the water. And I think that helped calm people's nerves,
Sure.
and it really did. So, and it set them up, and I got to watch the nerves and the anxiousness dissipate and go away. And when you're on a paddleboard, you have the most stability when you have the paddle in the water. So when you have it out of the water, you're shaky, you're unstable. So at the end of my lessons, it was amazing because I could see that their confidence had developed so much that I would line all of them up in a row with their backs to the skyline, and I would pull out my phone to take a picture, and I would tell them paddles up, and I'd tell them to hold their paddles in the air like warriors, like gladiators.
A celebration,
And
huh?
and it was a moment of celebration of them in their confidence and their growth. And it was beautiful for me to see. And I don't think they really saw it the way that I saw it. They thought, okay, we're going to do this thing and it's going to look great. And but for me, it was, I get to see the transformation of where you were 2 hours ago, and now you're doing this, and it's an amazing thing. So unfortunately, in Toronto, most people don't paddleboard past September, October. It's usually a May through September, October thing, and then it kind of shuts down because it's cold, just like where you are.
Yeah, yeah. That Great Lakes and northern part of the, southern part of Canada and the northern part of the States. It winter is winter here. But the paddleboard thing, it takes a lot of skill and agility, and you learn those things. So it's a pretty physical and demanding a sport. Is that correct?
It is.
Yeah.
So they there's talk about carrying it in the Olympics right now. There's a world championships, there's racing, there's national championships, it's in the Pan Am Games, there's the European finals. It's it's the fastest growing water sport in the world. And it's very competitive.
Wow.
Thank you very much, Andrea.
Andrea, thank you very much. She's an awesome lady,
Thank
and she was
you.
on our program, and glad you're jumping on here. Hey, share it out, Andrea. So you know what to do. You're a PR person.
So yeah, so unfortunately, the sport of Happy Friday, Eric. So unfortunately, paddleboarding is seasonal. So I got it into my head that I was going to. I made some connections in California, and I went out there to set up a business partnership. The entrepreneur part of me,
Okay. I was
let's
going to say you took a hobby. You have a strong passion. I think that's important. If I can interject, I think that's where people's success in business is when you have a passion for what you do and a love. So I think you're talking to my audience as well, because a lot of these people are business people, so want to hear that piece as well. So you turn your passion into a
into
business and a
into a
profession.
business.
Big dreams, right?
Yeah, and then and it was taking off, and it was beautiful, but I was also very aware that this was seasonal, and this there were limits on it. So I went out to California to set up a business partnership with another paddleboard company in Laguna Beach in Orange
Okay.
County, and we hit it off, and we were talking about doing trips down the Colorado River to the Grand Canyon, and over from Laguna Beach, just out there, and it was very exciting. And I came back from it, and I felt like I was on top of the world. I just, I've done it. like I'm gonna do paddleboarding in Toronto May through September, and then I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna be in California in the winters. Like it's a dream. like I was so excited and thinking, I can offer corporate retreats, and I can do all these these things, and I can incorporate yoga, and I can incorporate meditation, and and it was just a really, really exciting time. And then I came back and everything changed. So about 10 days after I came home, I woke up one
From
morning.
California?
Yeah, so I'm back in Toronto at this point, and I wake up with this really bad ear pain. And if you've ever had a toothache, it was like that, like the big like a bad toothache on the first day, and it was in my ear. And as the day went on, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go to a walk-in clinic, and I'm just going to check this out. And they said, what have you been up to lately? And I said, well, I've been in California. I've been surfing. I've been paddleboarding. I've been on the Pacific. And they said, okay, so you have a ear infection, a dirty water ear infection, probably, and we're going to, that's what we're going to call it. So then, I went home, and the pain just progressed, and it progressed at a rapid rate. So what they say is that it's more painful than the shattering of both of your kneecaps at the exact same time.
Oh, God.
So I was in excruciating pain, and I was doubling up on Tylenol and Advil at the same time every 2 hours just to combat it, and it still wasn't enough. So then the nausea set in, and the dizziness. And I remember I drove myself to an emergency room, and I was sitting at a red light. And the traffic lights, how there's the circles, and the red at the stoplight was coming outside of the circle. And I remember thinking, this isn't good. And I felt like a big night out in college had just happened, and it was the middle of the middle of the day. And unfortunately, the doctors at that hospital said the exact same thing, that it was just, they looked at the charts from before, and they said, you've been traveling. This is, our conclusion. And it just, kept on. That was where I was left. So I went home, and then a couple days later, I'm at my mom's house, and I woke up, and my feet hit the ground, and it seemed like the doorway was a million miles away. And I was fumbling to get it open. I was staggering towards the door. And I felt like getting down the stairs that morning took an eternity. And when I got to the bottom, she saw me, and she put down her coffee, and she brought me over to the window, or to the mirror. The hallway mirror was a ceiling to floor mirror. And she showed me that my face had dropped, and it had the nerves had shattered. The nerves had shattered in my face, and it dropped like I'd had a stroke overnight. So she said, "We're going to get you to the hospital right now." And at this point, my balance was really off. So we went, and the long story short is it was a reactivation of my chickenpox virus from when I was a kid. So when chickenpox reemerges as shingles, It can attack your eye. It can attack anywhere, but
Sure.
when it attacks your eye or your ear, it's called Ramsay Hunt Syndrome, and it's very rare. Um, so, in a very short period of time, 5 days, I lost my sense of balance, and I went from being this very vibrant, athletic, fit guy to not being able to walk from the living room to the kitchen of my home. Um, my social life was gone. My independence was gone, and my business is gone. Um, so I went from, having this amazing life 10 days ago in California to being in this new life that was very scary and very unnerving facial nerve damage. um,
You know,
but I remember we were sitting in the emergency room and at the final hospital. There were several, and when they finally ran tests, because they missed the 72-hour window for treatment, and when they ran the tests, he came back and he said, "So what do you do for work?" And I said, "Oh, I'm
so
a
you're now
professional."
getting the prognosis, right? You're getting the real good news, right?
Yeah, and he said, "So what do you do for work?" And I said, "Well, I'm a professional paddleboarder." And and the look on his face was just like, "Oh no! Like, what are we gonna do?" Like, it was not good. So so all of a sudden my life became appointments. We're going to send you for an MRI to rule out brain damage. We're going to send you to balanced testing centers to see what what is happening in your head, because this is a neurological condition. And suddenly it felt like I was on a carousel inside my head. um, I remember spinning out. I went for an MRI, and I laid down, and it was like I went into a tornado in my head, and I had to get up and say, "We need to stop. We need to stop this." Um, so
Mike, I got a question for you. So you're going through from all this pain and an assumed prognosis, and it's come to something much more serious. Um, what was what was the prognosis the doctor gave? Was this something that was going to be permanent, or was it something you're going to get through? What was because that's you're going through all this stuff, but
yeah.
that's a
So
hard to
so
deal with.
so
But
when we found out, it was really a matter of there's no guarantee, and we're going to see what we can do, but we're just going to take things slow and see how things come on their own. And that was the initial um, final conclusion of the diagnosis. Um, we're going to send you for a series of tests. We're going to send you to a neurologist. We're going to send you to an ENT. Um, and we're just going to take it one step at a time. But they were very clear that I did miss the initial treatment window, and everything was going to just come one step at a time, and not put the cart in front of the horse, and just go from there. So my life turned into a series of appointments, and yeah, so I remember going for a test at a balanced testing center, where I had to follow a light with my eyes that would go from left to right. Um, and they would do many different tests. Um, and I remember when the guy who administered those tests came back with the results into the room, he said, "What are they going to do with you?" like, like this isn't good. And my dad, who was with me, was just, he was floored. Like, and that day, we left that place and we drove to a physiotherapist's, and we got me booked for my very first session. So just to give you a little bit of a visual, at this point I was using a cane to walk, and I was also holding on to someone while I was walking. I was wearing an eye patch to cover my eye to protect it from the wind, because when you have facial paralysis, um, your eyes like this and you can't blink it.
Wow.
So I looked like not a normal guy in his 30s. Um, yeah, so it was really difficult. And at the same time I was grieving the loss of the life that I'd planned.
Yeah.
And the business that I built, and
Your dream shattered, huh?
yeah. Um, so so I was dealing with all of that, and I think, what many people don't realize is that when people go through a sudden diagnosis or a chronic condition, there's a huge mental health component to it. So I went on a significant mental health journey, at the insistence of my family. I sought treatment at a mental health treatment facility to process the grief and the anger and the rage that had built up for months. Um, Anger at doctors, anger at the system, anger at my family. Even though I was, um, grateful for their help, I was angry that I was in this position in the first place, and I was grieving. So by going, it's, I remember my dad's car driving away, and I was at the front door, and I was like, okay, I've got to do this. He's gone. I'm at this place, and I went in, and it was the best thing that probably ever could have happened to me, because it allowed me to get out of my house and my environment and really go and talk about what I was feeling and what I was experiencing. And it kind of opened the floodgates of vulnerability and authenticity and truth. And it was one of the healthiest things that I've ever done. And on the other side of it, it gave me the confidence knowing that I could do really hard, tough things that I didn't want to do.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. You're in a physical demanding sport. It takes balance and strength and a lot of coordination, and you build that skill like any other athletic endeavor. And now you have none of those skills,
Yeah.
and emotionally you're crashed and burned, right? I mean, you probably I can't comprehend that, Mike,
Yeah.
is how low that I believe you were pretty low, right?
Yeah,
And
no,
so,
it was a desperate, like I won't go into complete details because I'll leave some of that out, but no, like it was a really bad situation. And
so
there was a lot of grief.
yeah.
Um thinking, I'm gonna be single for the rest of my life. Who's gonna want this? My face has significantly improved in a 2 year period, but you can still see I still have a crooked smile. And believe me,
It's a beautiful smile, Mike. It's a beautiful smile.
I did look into you know, I did look into having facial reconstructive surgery on my face, and that was a plan. And I would go to these appointments, and they would say, this can take up to 2 years because we want to see what natural nerve progression can happen on its own. And it can take up to 2 years, and I'd leave every appointment devastated, thinking that I was going to go in and they were going to say, okay, we're going to book it. And it, this could take up to 2 years, and the 2 year mark actually just passed this fall. And I'm now in a place where I've accepted and come to terms, and I've realized that I'm worth more. um, there's been so much self-worth and self-love that has come throughout the journey that I've realized I don't need a surgery to make me feel whole. I already do. And that's probably one of the greatest things that have come from this.
Yeah.
But the amazing thing is that, once I left the mental health treatment facility, I got this opportunity to go and be around paddle boards again. And it was a business opportunity that I passed off to some friends of mine who also had paddleboarding businesses because I was unavailable. But I said I would like to come and be a part of it. And we went, and it was great. I got the media attention, and they were very happy. And when the media trucks left that day, they said, why don't you try getting back on a paddleboard? um, and and in that moment I realized, I thought about it, and I remembered that moment where my dad left at the mental health treatment facility, and I remembered, I can do tough things. I can do this. Even if I'm on a paddleboard and I'm spinning around in my head, I can do this.
Yeah.
And I did. I lasted 3 minutes sitting down, and it was one of the scariest things that I've ever done. But it was empowering, and it gave me more confidence that I could do it again. And I did. The next week, I went out and I sat down on a board for 5 minutes, battling
Now you're on
dizziness.
the water, right? Out in the
Yeah,
water. So
yeah, battling,
you're physically
dizziness.
challenged now, right? So if you
Yeah,
fell in, or I'm sure you probably had protection, buoyancy things in,
yeah,
but
yeah,
you could just be in the water the whole time, right?
yeah, yeah. So I was just sitting down, and I always had somebody very close to me in case something happened, in case I needed help. Um, but that 3 minutes gave me the confidence that I could do it for 5. And then that gave me confidence that I could do it for, another 5. And then I took that and I pushed it to 7. And then 3 months later, I stood up for the first time. And I did it right in front of the skyline at sunset. And it was one of the most amazing things. At that point in my physiotherapy, when I started physiotherapy and I was retraining my brain how to walk again, I was walking down the hallway doing exercises and moving my head to try to retrain my brain how to walk with this. And even now, when I do that, I get dizzy inside my head. Um, and and by the time that I stood up, um, the challenges in physiotherapy, they were still there, but I was much more advanced. I was on a trampoline and my physiotherapist was, you know, throwing balls at me to catch, and I was throwing them back at him. Um, so you know, it just gave me all this confidence, that I could, go after things. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to try to stand up. If I fall, I fall, but I'm going to try. And I did. Um, and around that time, a friend of mine said, I'm going to invite you to apply for this thing called Speaker Slam, which is North America's largest inspirational speaking competition, because I think you have a story and I think it's good. And so I said, okay, I'll try. And I'd only given one speech ever before. It wasn't very good, and but I thought, okay, well, we'll try. So I sent in the application, and they said, yes, we want you. So then I looked at it a little bit more in depth, and I realized, okay, these are professional speakers. These are TED Talk speakers. These are speakers who have gone big on Goalcast. These are like big, like heavy hitters. And now I've got to do a speech. So I quickly realized that I was going to use a universal message and apply it to everybody. So that it wasn't just about my condition, it was about everybody's condition. And I was going to use a message of every win, big or small, sets us up for our next. And the name of my speech was called I Said Yes, although people call it Paddles Up. And it's about building confidence and power when it's lost and when you're struggling. And my goal was to uplift and inspire a few people in a crowd of 300, and I won.
So here you went into an arena, never been in a competition speech a form, right?
Yeah.
And you did it. So what I really want to allude to here is you went through a mental exercise to get yourself confident, even get back on a board and sit on it. Because I think anything we do starts here, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now you go into this competition, and I want to set the stage. I'm going to encourage everybody to seek out that speech, because I watched it today, and that was the one you were on stage in your paddleboard shorts, right?
Yeah.
Your bow tie,
Yeah.
and you were standing, but you didn't have balance. You had to sit down, and you were still struggling with the speech, right? And your face was still. I was watching that, and you just amazed me, my friend.
Thank
I
you.
encourage anybody that has this to seek that speech out, because the story is moving. So go ahead with that. I just want to let people know how inspiring that speech is.
No, thank you. No, I remember them, they put a chair on stage for me.
Yeah.
And looking back at it now, like I don't need a chair for a 6 minute period. Maybe every hour or two I need to sit down. But back then, definitely, like I sat down multiple times during that 6 minute period because I needed to. And I worked with a coach to train me on execution. I wrote the speech, and I, I rehearsed it. I rehearsed that speech 300 times before I delivered it. Like, my neighbors probably thought this guy's lost it, because we can see him across the street sitting on his front stairs, and his mouth's moving, and he's not talking to anybody, but I was just sitting out there rehearsing. Um, and and I remember the person who coached me. She was in the audience that night, and at the end of it, she came up to me and she said, "Where did that come from?" And it was one of the most amazing things that has happened. And quickly, that speech went viral on several platforms. So Ashton Kutcher's platform, A Plus, and Chicken Soup for the Soul, and Jay Shetty's. It's been on Jay Shetty's platform. The Power of Positivity's put it up several times, and it's just gained millions of views. And the most amazing thing is, I've heard from people all around the world of you know of what it's meant to them. And I won't go into, like, there's so many things have happened after that, that are wild. And I won't go into that, because that's a great part of the story. But it has led me to the realization that I started the paddleboarding with the idea of building experiences for people, and that was what I wanted to do. And because of that journey and that experience with winning North America's largest inspirational speaking competition, it's led me into a new way of working. I'm now a corporate motivational speaker. I speak at schools. I wrote a book. I do many things. And all of that, it's all experiential for whoever is a part of it. And that's one of the most amazing things.
When you start talking about your passion and seeing when you're teaching them how to paddleboard, you're seeing people's confidence levels go up, and they conquered their fears, and they built some skill levels with your teaching. And I know what that's about, being a coach, seeing them make a transformation. You see confidence be building in that. And now you can't do that in the same sense, I believe. Am I correct? But now you're doing the same thing with your story.
Absolutely.
What a great gift to give to the world, is helping people get through their own struggles. And everybody has struggles in life. And many times we think our struggle is the worst one in the world, right? And I think that's probably what you thought, right? There's no one's got a worse story than mine.
Yeah.
But you got help. You sought out help, and I'm sure working with your heart and your mind and getting that squared to give you that confidence. And I think that's important for everybody. Seek out help, no matter what, coaching, psychotherapist, because when we're down, we need a different perspective. Do you think that's important? Do you think
one of the great parts of the story, and what I talk about often, is seeking out advice or counsel, or just expert opinion. So for me, when I didn't know what was happening, I Googled, because it's a rare condition. Like, this doesn't happen to many people. I Googled famous people, my condition, and what I found was, there were some politicians who had it, who I recognized, and then there was the founder of P90X, the fitness program, Tony Horton. And it had happened to him 1 year earlier than myself. So it happened to him. Stress triggers this, and the shooting in Las Vegas actually triggered his outbreak, and it actually put him in a wheelchair, and he had to come back. And today, Tony has become like this mentor figure, and he's in my book, Crash and Rise. And he's a huge part of my story. And what I tell people often, and it's not just in business, I think everybody in America right now who is struggling, find your Yoda to your Luke Skywalker. Find that person who is going to give you the answers and who has been through what you are going through right now. And find that person and build a relationship with them and learn from them. Because you can learn so much. And it was one of the greatest things that I probably, I remember thinking, Tony Horton's got millions of fans all over the world. He's got, hundreds of thousands of followers. He might not respond to me, but he did. He did. And it's not just me who can do that. Anybody can do that. Anybody.
That's a powerful thing you just said there is, but when we're in that space, we don't see it. And that's, that mentor, a sage, or somebody has been through that challenge to encourage you, give you hope. And you see, in a wheelchair, that's pretty severe, right? I mean, but it's gotten through it. May not be able to do what he did before, may not be able to do the physical thing ever again, but you're probably going to be able to deliver and impact people's lives in a much greater way through your experience. And that's a blessing. The way I look at it, your adversity can be a blessing for other people and yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, let's talk about your book a little bit, okay? I'm gonna pull up an overlay here, okay? I'm gonna bring this up here. And when was this picture taken? Was this after your affliction or was this before?
That was after. So that happened in that was September. So this all happened in November 2018 was when I got sick, and that was September 2019.
Okay, so a year later, going from this, and this is some of the testing you went through, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there I was having tests done for that was the balance testing that I was talking about, and they were seeing what was going on inside my head.
Yeah, and then this is a little bit about your book. In this next picture that I cloned out there is this one here. Is that your medal after your speech?
That is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes I wear it at Starbucks. No, I don't.
Let's talk about your book a little bit. What's the book about, and what's your message within the book?
Right. So the book is called Crash.
The book today, so
the book is called Crash and Rise: Diaries of the Unbalanced Paddleboarder. Unbalanced paddleboarder because I lost my sense of balance, and also it's a mental health story. So it's part biographical and part self-help. And the goal is, to help people who are struggling, whether it's people who are facing business challenges, whether it's personal challenges, whether that is with their health or their mental health, or what many people are struggling with these days. And I think You know, it's to remind people that when we all get knocked off our paddle boards in life, um, that we can climb back on. And although things might look very differently, they can still be great.
Yeah, and that, the circumstances of our lives is either we become a victim of them or we become a victor of them. And you're a victor, you
Thank
know.
you.
So you are a victor. And when I saw your story and the video, and I go, holy moly, people need to hear your story. And I'm here to support you. But more importantly, is that message, how many people that will see it brings tears to my eyes, seriously, just thinking about your journey and where you're at. I can't comprehend that. I've had difficulty in my life, but nothing. I mean, it would be like, what are you complaining about, Tom? What do you, so um, it's an amazing story, and I just encourage people to, seek you out, get you see that speech, and I think Andrea said it's on YouTube, right? They can search you on YouTube and get that speech. How many speeches have you done since then? Now you do corporate speaking.
Yeah. So I've done several. I speak at, organizations and businesses and schools. I love speaking at schools. Speaking to students, it's just so powerful, and I love it every time I do it. The Q&A at the end of a speaking engagement is always great. I love hearing from people and seeing, the questions are always, they're always so wide of, from entrepreneurship to mental health to so many different topics. So that keeps everything entertaining for me also. And it's just an amazing pivot professionally, that in the darkest hour of my journey, I never saw it. And one of the things, Steve Jobs, we can only connect the dots looking back, not
Right.
looking forward.
Exactly.
And in the darkest hour, I never saw any of what's going on right now happening. And I didn't see a way forward. And here we are 2 years later, and everything's different. So it's, I'm grateful for, I look back at it now, and I'm grateful for the journey. I'm grateful for the experience. If I had to go through all the pain again to get to where I am now, I would. It's one of the most transformational things that has ever happened to me. And not that I would ever wish it on anybody else to go through that extensive amount of pain, but if I had to go through it again, I would.
Yeah, that's a tremendous story. Do you have another book in the works or anything like that, or anything that anything else happening out there?
There might be.
There might be. Okay.
There might be another book. There might be a follow-up book coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let
There might be something in the works right now.
Yeah, so you've got a strong message, and you continue doing that and helping people out. How can people get your book? I'm going to put this up here. Of course, on Amazon, I presume. Just look up Mike Shoreman, and your book out there.
So you can pick up Crash and Rise, Diaries of the Unbalanced Paddleboarder, Victim to Thriving Survivor at Amazon, Barnes & Noble online, Books A Million stores, and you can connect with me on social media. I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook. Mike Shoreman. On most of them, I go under Mike Shoreman dash the Unbalanced Paddleboarder.
Okay.
And I always love connecting with people. So reach out, contact me and say hi, and tell me you found me through Tom, and we'll have a chat.
Yeah, so you do speaking. So you speak where? All over the country or all over Canada? Where you spoke?
Yeah, so internationally, I just did an event in London, in England, a couple weeks ago. I was actually speaking with this year's first ever. I was doing an event with this year's first ever Time Magazine Kid of the Year, and we were co-speaking at that event. So I've got an event in the US. Everything's virtual right now, but I'm hoping, as things transition and we open up, I'm hoping to be doing some public engagements for, early fall. Fingers crossed with the turnaround of what we're all going through right now.
Great. I'm just going to encourage the audience out there is go to your YouTube channel, subscribe to see your talks, your speeches, those type of things, because the show, when I was introduced from Andrea to you and I did a little bit of research and that, and then today I actually watched the video before you came on, and it brought tears to my eyes, and I was so excited to have you on as a guest. I'm so grateful for your story. You're going to, just your story is an inspiration to others, and that there is hope, and that I liked what you said in your speech. One yes leads to the second yes. I did it. I'm going to say yes again to the next thing, and yes, and yes, and yes. You do transformation one yes at a time. I think is something you said. I'm paraphrasing probably what you said.
Yeah. So every yes bigger. Yeah. Yeah. It's confidence building, and you take a win, and it builds trust within yourself that you can do things, and it's transformative, and you take that win and you leverage that with yourself into knowing that you can go after the next win, and you can go after it, and when you get that win, then you've got two wins, and that's a powerful thing, and it leads you to and you're just building on wins until you're not losing anymore, and it's a great mindset hack.
Well, Mike, I appreciate you being here today so much. And get to know, and I believe that we'll stay in touch. I'd love to have you back in and share your story again and help other people with inspiration. So you're welcome to come back in anytime, especially if you got that other thing that's in the process. We'll make sure we'll get that out there for you as well. But in the meantime, I just encourage everybody to go to Amazon or one of the online or Book a Million and get his book. If you should hear his speech, and I know that speech and all that content, some of that stuff is in there. So the encouragement and the possibilities of transformation are huge. So I'm so grateful to get to know you today and hear that story.
Thank you for having me on. It was really, really great. So thank you.
Right. So I'm going to put you in the green room. Under our contract, I got you blue M&Ms, so you enjoy those. We always have fun with the green room. So Mike, just hold on as I sign us out here today, and I'll be back with you in a moment.
Thank you.
Thanks again for being here. Mike Shoreman, tremendous story. The title of his book, Diaries of the Unbalanced Paddleboarder. Crash and Rise, from Victim to Thriving Survivor. That in itself, the title of the book, shares with you what he went through. So, so grateful to hear his story. But gratitude, I believe, is one of the most powerful things that we can incorporate our lives. In the most difficult times, taking a space of gratitude brings perspective of your entirety of your life and takes you out of a victim to a victor. Gratitude. And Mike, I think story is a true replication of gratitude in that area. So share this out with your friends, your colleagues. You know, the whole program about G-Force is that a message may touch somebody's life, and we don't know who needs to hear the message. Share it out, because somebody needs some help. Somebody needs to have an inspirational story. Somebody needs to hear that there's a way and there's hope for no matter what's going on in your life. So with that all said, I'm grateful for today. I'm grateful for Mike, and we're signing out. God bless everybody. See you on Monday. G-Force.